Welcome to the weekend. I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Well, it's the big day. Election is just around the corner, and I'm kind of happy, which should make you rather distressed. To talk about it from Fox News Channel and the Daily Caller, Mary Katherine Ham, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you in town.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love Colorado.
Well, you keep coming to these Independence Institute events, and so I'm grateful for that.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah, well, you'll grow out of it. Everybody does. And from National Review Online and a great blogger, Michael Sandoval. Thank you.
Great.
Now you've been working mostly for National Review Online, blogging on Colorado issues.
Yeah, that's correct. The congressional races, the Senate race, and of course the crazy, wacky gubernatorial race.
So, does anybody outside of Colorado give a damn about these races?
They do, actually.
Why?
I think one of the things that we can look at to determine whether or not they care about it is the $23+ million in the U.S. Senate race alone. And certainly in the governor's race, moving it back to that, $600,000 that the Democratic Governors Association, some liberal groups put in the primary to make attention be known to Scott McInnes's plagiarism and kind of skew the primary results.
Isn't it amazing?
Really shows that there is a lot of interest in Colorado politics.
What a story this was, that Democrats were playing in the Republican primary, that Democrats were putting money to beat up one Republican so that the weaker Republican could win. I don't know if that's ever happened in Colorado politics.
Well, I don't know that it's a bad bet. I mean, you spend $500,000 in July as opposed to $5 to $10 million in September and October. So for them, up until the recent polling showing Tom Tancredo, the American Constitution Party, former Republican, that got into the race in July, is coming up neck and neck to John Hickenlooper. It looked like a very good bet for about 2 months.
Well, in Colorado, I think for Democrats too, it's supposed to be a tent pole of this. We turned everything blue movement. So it's important for them to keep that meme in line and to make sure that they salvage Election Day in Colorado in particular, because it's been such a symbol of how Obama and the new Democrats have been able to turn red states blue.
Now, I've always thought as Colorado is one of the best bangs for the buck when it comes to national politics, because we're a swing state, one of the reasons why the DNC happened here in Colorado. But still, even though we're a bellwether state, it only takes a handful of people to completely turn this state from left to right, as has happened over the last few election cycles. Tell me, from your point of view from Washington, when you look at Colorado, is it just one of those damn square states out there, or does it actually matter to the whole picture?
No, I think it matters. I mean, obviously, once Obama gives a speech in Invesco Field, your state suddenly matters.
I was there. I was there for the magic.
He has anointed it, and it matters. No, I think, from a national perspective, particularly because Democrats brag so much about having turned it blue, it has become sort of a symbol for this movement. And so it's a very interesting state to watch, particularly because of this wacky, we'll use the term wacky, that's a generous term, gubernatorial race, has just really fascinated people. Outside.
How does it look
Colorado.
outside? Let's just jump into the wackiness, because this has been fun. God awful,
it's taken
but
me
fun.
3 days here to even understand what's going on.
So how does anybody outside of Colorado understand what happened in this gubernatorial race?
I'm not sure that everyone understands, but the snippets that they hear are so fabulous that
like
they
what?
don't even have to put the whole story together to have fun with it. Well, I've heard
first of all, you got a guy named Hickenlooper and a guy named Tancredo. People don't even know how to spell these names.
Exactly. Right. And Dan Mays is a whole other story, but then I found out about the independent candidate who has the shower commercial where he's shirtless, which was
Jason Clark.
That's a highlight in
Well,
in my ad consumption this year. I mean,
because Hickenlooper went into the shower with his clothes on.
Yes.
And if you've ever seen Hickenlooper, you don't want to see him with his shirt off. So that's not a bad thing for
Well, I'm not sure I want to see any of them with their shirts off, but for pure entertainment value in ads, that's Colorado is delivering.
Talk to me about Tancredo's chances. I mean, if you talked to me 2 months ago, I would say this thing is over. And I'm still tempted to say likely he's not going to be pulling it off. But damn, this is turning into a real horse race. Am I reading this wrong?
No, I don't think so. Magellan poll today, 44 to 43, 1 point. Tancredo is back. I think going back to why there is interest simply because Tancredo is in the race, and seeing the implosion of the Republican candidate. Nobody knows Dan May's name outside of the state, but they know the Republican candidate has imploded. They know that Tom Tancredo is in the race, and Hickenlooper basically put himself on cruise control, certainly after the McInnes plagiarism scandal. So, he was figuring.
And if you were McInnes, you'd do the same thing. You would take a long vacation, put out a couple nice feel-good ads, and shut up.
But Hickenlooper has never been out of the mid-40s. even when Tancredo and Dan Mays were more evenly split, 25-25, around there, before sort of the final stories came out about the Kansas Bureau of Investigation that really, I think, put the stake in Dan Mays' campaign. So, folks have been just glued to, is this interested? And as far as National Review was concerned, they de-emphasized the race around about the end of August. And then in the last 3 weeks since Tancredo surged, they're like, hey, you got to cover the gubernatorial race again.
It's kind of like when you leave the football game with 5 minutes left and you go, there's no way. And you're walking out and you start hearing the cheers back in the stadium and you realize, wait a second, the game's not over, and you want to run back.
Well, and the fact that Tancredo is making this a race is very interesting. Another interesting fact, and something I'm surprised more people haven't talked about nationally, is the idea that Mays is sort of a symbol of what can happen when you get this insurgent candidate who hasn't been vetted, who storms in and takes that nomination. And it's turned out not so great for the Republican Party, certainly with future implications as far as the ballot goes as well.
That's a beautiful one. That it looks as though the Republican Party might not be a major party by state law. I mean, nobody knows. Every state has their own regulations on what a major party is, what a minor party is, or if there's even a difference. This is a real possibility now that Republicans will be treated like libertarians, even though they could have a majority in the House. They might even have a majority in the Senate. And if Tancredo wins, he won't be an American Constitution Party guy for long. He'll go back to the Republican Party, that wonderful minor party.
Well, and I think even just a couple of weeks ago, it seemed to me that there would be enough sort of, diehard Republicans that would just check the R out of sort of reflexive, as a Republican, I'm voting for Dan Mays. Definitely there was a strong contingent of Dan Mays supporters up until a couple of weeks ago that were really pushing for, he's the party nominee, we got to vote and support this guy. And that was kind of my calculus in pushing Dan Mays over the 10% mark. But I really think that, with the collapse of the Western Slope Conservative Alliance, the Tea parties on the Front Range, who have all withdrawn their support. Definitely the state legislators, the few remaining, have all pretty much withdrawn. There's really no one left that's supporting Dan Mays except for people maybe perhaps with the last name of Mays. And so
mind you, the second Mrs. Mays. I'm not too sure about the first Mrs. Mays.
Well, and so you're maybe looking at 5 to 8% max.
So, and the poll news is not going to hurt Tancredo either. That'll obviously make people go, he can actually pull this off.
He can actually pull this one off.
And Hickenlooper's statement that he made several months back that I talked about today on my blog about rural Coloradans and their backwards thinking. There may be some independents who were not thinking about Tancredo, who were maybe leaning towards Hickenlooper. That may make them reevaluate it and may help Tancredo, if not win outright, then certainly make the race a lot closer than it should have been a couple months ago.
It all goes back to Caldara's political axiom number one: there is nothing Republicans can't F up. And Colorado is a perfect example. Not only did we put two guys who were never going to win in as our nominees because it was the good old boy network or the unvetted network of insurgents, and then we put together this law that's now going to make us the minority party. It's a beautiful thing, and all of this on the year, which is our big year. This is my year. All right, let's move a little bit out of the governor's race. We also have a Senate race. And I'm pretty comfortable, not certain, but I'm pretty comfortable that Ken Buck is going to pull this one out. This is a targeted race. Tell me about it from DC's point of view. This is big. Again, Colorado is in the middle of it again.
Well, obviously, it's a big race partly because Bennett is sort of the Obama anointed candidate and was in the primary. It was viewed as a very interesting proxy battle between the Clintons and Obama when it was on the ground here in the primary, and I know got pretty nasty at certain points. As
every good election should.
So going forward, he's certainly that sort of Obama candidate is how he's looked upon, and he's the appointed guy, which is obviously not jibing with the outside the beltway idea that people want in a candidate these days. He's got a lot of things working against him, and that's how people from Washington are viewing it. Buck, on the other hand, it's been a close race. He's had a gaffe here and there, but he seems like a largely personable guy, and I think people are willing to forgive a couple gaffes in new candidates this year in a way that they're not usually willing to do.
Also, I'm thinking, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the usual attack ads aren't as sticky as they used to be. They're not grabbing people. Ken Buck is a serial rapist that eats children for breakfast.